lawyer, journalist and politician from Borno State, northeast Nigeria. Malam Abba Kyari was considered one of the most influential figures in Nigerian politics. In this report, our correspondent Shewa Kibaloye looks at the life and time of the former chief of staff to President Buhari.
The president is very pleased.
Unassuming, many describe him. Malam Abba Kyari, a Kanuri man from Borno State in Nigeria's northeast Nigeria, and considered one of the most influential figures in Nigeria's politics. A very educated individual with degrees from Cambridge University and Harvard, a lawyer, a journalist, and a politician. In August 2015, President Muhammadu Buhari appointed Abba Kyari as his chief of staff and was reappointed after the president won a second term in office. Before his foray into politics, Abba Kyari worked for Fani Kaudi and Sowemimo, a law firm, after his return to Nigeria. In 1988 to 1990, he was the editor with the New Africa Holdings Limited in Kaduna. In 1990, he heeded the call to serve in his home state of Borno as he was appointed as a Commissioner for Forestry and Animal Resources. Afterwards, he worked for other private interests. He was a man who was hardly heard publicly, but at a few times he spoke with strong loyalty to the president. Example here is when he received parents of the Chibok girls.
About this development, since the first 21 girls were released last year, he gave instructions to the security forces to leave no stone untouched until all the girls are released. This is the second batch. This is the result of the effort. The president has them in his mind on a daily basis. He has been quiet, but he believes in delivery as opposed to talking.
A few times also in the line of his duty, controversies emerged. For example, at his very Federal Executive Council meeting, where he's seen in a heated argument with the former head of the civil service, Mrs. Winifred Oyoita. Another reported incident was a leaked memo from the office of the NSA, where Mr. Mungunu was reported to have fired a warning memo to all service chiefs to desist from taking further directives from Mr. Kyari. Weeks ago, Mr. Kyari made an official trip to Germany. When he returned to the country, he also had some local activities on the trip. Mr. Abba Kyari was reported to have contracted COVID-19, after which he later confirmed the news on March the 29th and was transferred to Lagos for treatment based on medical advice. On Friday, April 17, 2020, the presidency announced the death of Mr. Abba Kyari from COVID-19 related complications, and he has been buried in Gudu burial ground in Abuja.
Meanwhile, we are in receipt of a video on social media showing the decontamination of the area in which the former chief of staff to the president was today buried. Meanwhile, there are some concerns about one of the men who took part in the burial of the late chief of staff to the president. A rather disturbing video which surfaced online showing the man taking off the protective white suit he was wearing when the body of Malam Kyari was being lowered to the grave at Gudu Cemetery. He was seen later packing the clothes into a red polythene bag, which he thereafter dumped by the roadside before entering into his car. Although Channels Television has not independently verified the video, there may be the need for the NCDC to trace the man in the video, his contacts, to prevent the spread of COVID-19. The Acting Secretary of the Health and Human Services Secretariat of the Federal Capital Territory FCT Administration, Dr. Mohammed Kawu, has reacted to the viral video of the man pulling off his personal protective equipment, PPE, at the Gudu Cemetery you just saw in Abuja during the burial of the late Chief of Staff to the President. According to him, the Public Health Department has since taken necessary action on the matter by professionally evacuating the PPE left over by the man man and the entire cemetery decontaminated. He says that all those that participated in the burial and were not properly kitted have been identified and are being isolated, while necessary tests will be conducted on all of them to determine their level of exposure and ensure that they do not infect other people. Well, following inquiries on the death of the Chief of Staff to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, the Lagos State government states has been explaining the circumstances surrounding it. In a statement, the Commissioner for Health in the state, Dr. Akin Abayomi, explained that Malam Kyari died from complications of coronavirus infection at the first cardiology consultants in Lagos. Professor Abayomi clarified that the hospital is a Lagos State designated high-care biosecurity compliant COVID-19 facility accredited by the Health Facility Management and Accreditation Agency of the state's Ministry of Health. He added that as a basis for accreditation, First Cardiology Consultants established a separate specialist wing with staff dedicated to the treatment of complicated cases of COVID-19. According to him, all this was done under the supervision of the Lagos State COVID-19 Emergency Response Team. And let's take a look at the NCDC guidelines on how to bury bodies of those confirmed to have died from the coronavirus. It states on its website that the dead should be treated with respect as they have the rights to a dignifying burial. It notes that standard precautions, including use of appropriate PPEs, hand hygiene before and after the burial procedure, should be adhered to. Other guidelines include family and friends may view but not touch or kiss the body. Family and friends should wash hands thoroughly with soap and water after the viewing. Those who put the body in the grave should wear gloves and wash their hands with soap and water once the burial is complete. Traditional burial attendants can be equipped and educated to bury people under supervision. As the country continues to ramp up efforts to curtail COVID-19, the Director General of the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, NCDC, has visited Imo State to ensure that facilities put in place are good enough to support the fight against the pandemic. Dr. Chikwe Hekwazu disclosed this when he paid a courtesy visit on the Imo State Governor, Hope Uzodinma, at the Government House, Owerri, the state capital.
Imo State, southeast Nigeria, is one of the states in the federation yet to record any case of the coronavirus disease, even though the state government has continued to put precautionary measures in place. The fact that no case is registered comes as a bit of a surprise to the Director General of the National Center for Disease Control, NCDC, Dr. Chikwe Hekwazu, especially because the people of the southeast are known for their internal and external travel exposure.
We're happy that there hasn't been a case so far, but there are two ways to be fully happy. We have to be sure that we're looking hard enough and not finding, because this outbreak is a bit like, let me use an analogy of a pregnancy. Sometimes in the beginning, you'll be asking people, are you pregnant or not? But eventually, it will come out if you are.
The state governor, Hope Uzodinma, commends the NCDC team for their complimentary support to the state government in ensuring the deadly virus does not find its way into the state. He appeals to the NCDC to strengthen their support for their team on ground.
We are calling on you to help us and strengthen our people so we can be prepared fully in the event this thing finds its way into Imo State. So I think that what World Health Organization has also done in terms of awareness and sensitization, we'll also commend that. We want to encourage them to continue.
As part of precautionary measures put in place by the state government to prevent the outbreak of the virus in the state, the government has imposed a dusk dawn curfew in all parts of the state, in addition to the total lockdown earlier implemented.
The governor of Ogun State, Dapo Abiodun, has announced some new measures which he believes will help the state in containing the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic. Briefing journalists at his country home, the governor explains that the total lockdown in the state will commence from Saturday, April the 18th, through Monday, April the 20th, when it is expected to be relaxed to enable people restock. He appeals for patience and understanding in what he called unusual times.
I owe you the responsibility to provide additional information and clarifications, especially as it concerns the additional 14-day lockdown as announced by our President Muhammad Buhari, on Monday in his nationwide broadcast. This must have been a painful but needful decision for Mr. President. My dear fellow citizens of Ogun State, we appreciate the serious health need to curb the spread of this virus and prevent those who have not contacted the virus from contacting it. But there is also the important need to strike a delicate balance between public safety and the welfare of our citizenry. In this regard, Ogun State residents will have a window of relaxation from the renewed 14-day lockdown in the state, which will commence from today, midnight, till Monday, 20th. What that means is that there will be relaxation of the lockdown on Monday, the 20th, on Wednesday, the 22nd, and on Friday, 24th of April. This period of relaxation will be between the hours of 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. on each of these days. This means that citizens are expected to remain indoors tomorrow, Saturday, April 18th, Sunday, April 19th, Tuesday, April 21, and Thursday, April 23rd, 2020, as a period of lockdown. Let me also re-emphasize that while the window of relaxation is being observed, all interstate and international borders by their state will remain closed. As usual, all personnel on essential services will be given access to perform their duties. This window of relaxation of the lockdown will be reviewed from time to time.
And the Niger Delta Development Commission, NCDC, has justified the Commission's decision to give financial support to Niger Delta states to fight coronavirus. Addressing a press conference in Port Harcourt, the acting managing director of the Commission, Professor Keme Brady Kumo Ponde, says that as an interventionist agency, it is important for the NCDC to work in synergy with the 9 state governments in the region. He notes that though the Commission was able to procure equipment and drugs, it would still need to hand them over to the states for deployment. He cited the case of primary healthcare centres built by the Commission in different communities which were not functional today because the states were not carried along.
The NCDC decided instead to support the states in the NCDC region with financial support, which has been passed on to the 9 states to increase their capacity to contain the COVID-19 pandemic. It is not our place to tell them how to go about that. Every state knows what their difficulties are. They know what facilities they have and which ones they require. And the NCDC also is still going on with enlightenment campaigns, and we've even tried as much as possible to even extend support to the youth and women groups across the 9 states, even though there have been some teething problems as per distribution. But I think it's a novel thing, and subsequently will overcome this.
And the coronavirus is still affecting the world of business. Let's bring you Teniola Shaboali with the latest.
Thanks, Millicent. Welcome to Business News. The issuance of electronic certificates with quick response code at the Corporate Affairs Commission has been placed on hold due to inaccuracies of the processing technology. The Registrar General of the Commission, Mr. Garba Abubakar, explains the situation on our weekend program, Capital Markets, while ascribing the delay in the actualization of the Companies and Allied Matters Act to some final procedures at the National Assembly. shortly.
We still issue paper certificate because, unfortunately, when that system was introduced last year before I took over, there were issues with the application. Customers could not access. It was extremely slow. The challenge we had was it was not properly tested, so it has been suspended. We have to be convinced that the application is robust enough and it will meet the needs of our customers. So until then, we are still issuing paper certificates. But all the process of registration, from name reservation to data entry, certificate generation, are electronic. It's not just enough to pass a bill. The legal department in the National Assembly has to clean it up, ensure that all the cross-referencing and other provisions of the bill are consistent. So that process is ongoing. It is after they have cleaned up the bill that the Senate President will sign for it to be transmitted to Mr. President for assent. So this is exactly the situation. And as you are aware, this lockdown has affected almost every organization, including the National Assembly. I don't know whether the cleaning up is still ongoing, but we expect that very soon the bill will be assented to. And once it is gazetted, then it will come into effect.
Well, following the implementation of COVID-19 lockdown directives across major cities, short-term financial reports of banks are expected to be negative for the first quarter of the year. The chief executive of Sterling Bank, Mr. Abubakar Suleiman, links the expectation to the decline volume of transactions while sharing his projections with Channels Television.
No, performance, especially short-term financial performance, are going to be moderated. Obviously, it starts with the fact that business volumes have gone down. There are a lot of transactions that have been put in abeyance. And until you process those transactions and you lend those monies to the customers, you can't make a profit. Even payment volumes have also slowed down. There is an impact on government revenue, which also means that if you bank the state or you bank their ecosystem, you would see a reduction in volume over time. So it's fair to expect a performance that would be weaker than what we had projected and potentially weaker for most institutions than first quarter 2019.
That's Business News Tonight. It's back to you, Millicent.
Thank you, Teniola. Still ahead on the news at 10. Death toll from COVID-19 exceeds 15,000 in the United Kingdom, making it the 5th highest in the world. Please stay with us.